Celestial bodies suddenly light up, and sometimes for a long time. Stars with tails also often appear, sometimes in the western sky, sometimes in the eastern one. And in the same way, lightning, torches, trumpets, and weapons that are called burning shields. And all of them are omens of great calamities.
This is the testimony of Pliny the Elder, the philosopher who lived between 23 and 79 AD in Italy. His testimony, along with that of many others, is very interesting because it tells of the existence of mysterious phenomena that occurred in the skies, even in ancient times. We can define it as one of the first testimonies of sightings of unidentified objects. But as we will see later, this is only a small part of a vast documentation that deals with the phenomenon. Until just a few years ago, those who talked about UFOs were often met with mocking smiles. Today, the phenomenon has taken a completely different turn. In recent years, the opinion about this unknown phenomenon has changed radically, and very interesting documents have come to light that shed new light on the whole issue. But what is happening in the world of ufology? Today, we will take stock of the phenomenon of unidentified objects, and we will see how this topic, often ridiculed in the past, has instead become a hot topic that opens up entirely new possible scenarios. Well, now, before we start this journey, as we always do, and if you haven't done it yet, we invite you to subscribe to the channel to support our work.
In Spoleto, a golden fireball came down to the ground, and as it grew larger, it seemed to move. Rising from the ground, the globe moved toward the east, so large that it obscured the sun.
The UFO phenomenon is a very complex subject, often unfairly subjected to prejudice and cheap mockery. But in reality, there are many researchers who have devoted their attention to it over the years. For example, consider that the study of ancient accounts of unidentified objects has become a real discipline called clipeology. The name comes from clipeus, the round shield that was used by the militias of the Roman Empire. Clipeus ardens, burning shield. This was also the term used by ancient witnesses of the classical era to describe the unusual phenomena they observed, and these were anything but rare. As you saw, we opened the video with the words of Pliny the Elder, but this is certainly not the only testimony from the classical era. Similar accounts come from Diodorus Siculus, Livy, Aeschylus, and Plutarch. They describe the presence of discs hovering menacingly in the skies, mysterious objects that terrify the population who watch them in astonishment. But the description of similar phenomena continues over the years and goes on throughout the Middle Ages. In 1290, we have the testimony of all the monks of Ampleforth Abbey in England, who recount an incredible sighting.
While Abbot Henry was preparing to recite the afternoon prayers, John, one of the brothers, came to announce that a great wonder was appearing outside. So they all went outside, and behold, a great silvery thing round like a disc flew above them, causing the greatest terror.
Of Ampleforth. But this is nothing compared to what happened in Nuremberg on April 14, 1561, when many people witnessed a terrifying spectacle. The sky suddenly filled with cylindrical objects from which emerged discs and globes that were white, red, black, orange, and blue. As evidence of this extraordinary event, Hans Glaser depicted all of this in a 16th century woodcut. This event is known as the Nuremberg celestial phenomenon, and over the years it has sparked a lively debate. According to detractors, this would have been a natural phenomenon, specifically what is called a parhelion, an atmospheric phenomenon caused by the refraction of sunlight by small ice crystals. But this explanation, however, clashes with everything that the witnesses of those events claim to have seen.
The sky seemed to fill with cylindrical objects from which emerged discs and globes that were white, red, black, orange, and blue. Crosses and tubes similar to cannon barrels also appeared, after which the objects promptly began to fight each other. After about an hour of battle, some of these objects seemed to catch fire and fall to the ground, where they turned into vapor.
But we don't just have written testimonies. There are also many depictions made over the years, such as the 15th century painting by an unknown artist known as the Madonna of San Giovannino. In the painting kept at Palazzo Vecchio in Florence, behind Maria's shoulders, you can see a disc with radiating lights crossing the sky, while it is being observed by a man and his dog. This image, on the other hand, is taken from a 13th century manuscript, Annales Loricenses, and refers to a flying object sighted in the year 776 during the siege of Sigeberg Castle in France. In those days, the Saxons surrounded and besieged the French troops, but while the armies were engaged in battle, suddenly a group of flaming shields appeared above the roof of a church near the battlefield. To the Saxons, it seemed as if the French were being protected by these mysterious and frightening objects, so they fled and retreated. Another mysterious fresco was painted in 1350 by a Serbian artist and is preserved in a monastery in the region. Here we have the scene of the crucifixion, where on the right and left sides of the painting, two curious images appear that seem to represent two flying saucers, inside of which two anthropomorphic figures are depicted. What we have seen are just some of the myriad pieces of information and testimonies that we can find by digging into ancient texts and depictions from the past. Now, someone will certainly say that all of this can easily be dismissed by claiming that these testimonies are simply the result of natural events, phenomena that people of the time did not know and therefore were not able to understand, and that perhaps were later reinterpreted and reworked by the witnesses of the time through what could have been their imagination and cultural background. But clearly, those who claim this deliberately fail to mention that people of that time observed the sky much more than we do, and they knew the constellations, the stars. This is because, besides appearing to them as a magnificent spectacle, the sky and the stars were used for navigation, to regulate agricultural cycles, and to keep track of the passage of time. But let's assume anyway that all the witnesses of these extraordinary events were simple men. Let's set aside these historical accounts for a moment. We'll come back to them later in the video. And let's take a leap forward in time to reach the present day.
Alarming reports from respected members, both current and former, of the military and intelligence community, all with solid credentials, indicate that the United States government is maintaining a level of secrecy beyond congressional oversight regarding unidentified aerial phenomena. My testimony is based on information received from individuals with a well-established reputation for legitimacy and dedication to serving the country. Many of these same individuals have provided compelling evidence, including photographs, official documentation, and confidential oral testimonies, both to me and to many of my colleagues. During the performance of my official duties, I became aware of a
recovery and reverse engineering program on unidentified objects,
active for decades, to which I was denied access to further details when I requested them.
These are the statements of David Grush, former U.S. intelligence official, which he made to the U.S. Congress in July 2023. Grush not only stated that the U.S. government is aware of the true nature of unidentified objects, but that it is using what appears to be superior technology to carry out reverse engineering, meaning studying these objects in order to recreate them and gain a technological advantage. In addition to this, the intelligence official also stated that the U.S. government would also be in possession of biological remains recovered during some incidents involving unidentified objects, and that these definitely have a non-human origin. Clearly, these statements have made headlines around the world and have sparked various reactions. But the most interesting point isn't the various denials or downplaying by the usual suspects. The real point of the matter is, how did we go from denying and ridiculing the UFO phenomenon to a hearing in the United States Congress? And above all, Why is it only being talked about now? The study of the UFO phenomenon, or UAP according to the recent terminology, is a very long journey that began at the end of World War II. Between 1947 and 1969, the United States Air Force actually documented more than 12,000 UFO sightings as part of Project Blue Book, including observations of lights, objects, and anomalous radar readings. These sightings were reported by a variety of sources, including military and civilian pilots, weather observers, and astronomers. Despite this massive amount of documentation, the project was closed in 1969, following a study by the University of Colorado, which concluded that there is no evidence that UFOs came from other worlds, attributing most sightings to natural phenomena or hoaxes. But clearly, denying the problem did not stop the sightings, which have continued around the world over the years, and more often, the witnesses have been highly reputable people. However, something in the narrative of the UFO phenomenon began to change in the early 2000s, when the testimonies of two pilots from the United States Navy were released, who observed a mysterious oval object flying over the skies of San Diego. It was during these years that the Pentagon launched a program on the identification of aerospace threats, but this remained unknown to most people. It was only in 2017 that the New York Times revealed the existence of the project, and further testimonies and videos made by Air Force pilots came to light, where unidentified objects can be clearly seen. It was also during these years that the decision was made to change the nomenclature from UFO to UAP, from unidentified objects to unidentified phenomena, even though the substance of the problem remains the same as it was half a century ago. Today we know that there are at least 2 active investigations in the United States, one by the Pentagon and one by NASA. But between denials, bombshell statements, and conferences, we have reached a conclusion accepted by everyone. The UAP phenomenon exists, it is real, and therefore it deserves to be investigated. If these statements have disappointed those who were expecting a definitive announcement about the presence of alien visitors on our planet, these admissions have nevertheless completely changed the paradigm regarding the UFO issue. Listen, for example, to this famous interview of former President Obama on The Late Show. The discussion starts with the usual mocking tone, but then takes a different turn when the former president makes a specific clarification.
Now I'm serious. There are videos and recordings of objects in the sky that we don't exactly know what they are. We can't explain how they move. Their trajectory doesn't have an easily explainable pattern, so I think we need to take seriously the attempt to investigate and understand what they are.
The testimonies we've seen in recent years, after all, leave little to the imagination. Unidentified objects have been clearly recorded performing movements and maneuvers that have little to do with natural events, but instead suggest precise maneuvers guided by some kind of intelligence. For example, the images initially released by the documentarian Jeremy Corbell and later confirmed by the Pentagon, where you can clearly see an unidentified object flying over the ocean, stopping, and finally diving into the water. Well, if after so many years it has finally been stated that the phenomenon of unidentified flying objects is real, we can't help but wonder what they are. The most popular theory is that it's advanced technology but of human origin, specifically military. Now, if this hypothesis may have had some basis in the post-war period and during the Cold War, after 50 years, this theory clearly doesn't hold up anymore. If half a century ago we were able to build such aircraft, why is there still no trace of them? Moreover, we are living through years of war, intimidation, and power plays between nations. Wouldn't this be the perfect time to bring out this so-called technology and say, here, gentlemen, we have these weapons, so either you do as we say or there will be trouble. To this we must add that testimonies of mysterious objects in the sky, which, as we have seen, are very similar to those we still see today, are very ancient and get lost in the depths of history. So if today we believe that these objects really exist, why should we rule out that the ones cited in the past were real? Moreover, if we analyze the ancient texts found in almost every culture in the world, they speak quite clearly about encounters with mysterious entities, possessing extraordinary knowledge and abilities. In light of what we know, could these texts take on new meanings? An answer to this question might come from Mexico. On September 13, 2023, during a conference organized by the Mexican Parliament Chamber, the latest news in the field of ufology was discussed, and at the same time, some witnesses from the American military navy were heard. But the journalist Jaime Maussan, during his speech, astonished the whole world. He unexpectedly presented the mummified bodies of two beings, whose nature he claimed was not human. The news quickly spread around the world, even though some not-so-clear past actions of the journalist have overshadowed what should have been sensational news. To be clear, we can say that the issue is actually much more complex than how it was described by the media. And for now, we'll report the facts of what happened and analyze with you some very interesting elements of this discovery. Maussan presented two mummies during the conference. These were dated through carbon-14 analysis by the Autonomous University of Mexico, which estimated an age of about 1,000 years. However, the university clarified that it did not analyze the mummies, but only a sample that supposedly belonged to them, a method that was confirmed by Maussan himself. But the biggest surprise comes from the DNA analysis, which was reportedly carried out by a laboratory in Canada and estimated that at least 30% of the DNA is unknown, meaning it is foreign to everything we know. Maussan also claims that the DNA results are public and that anyone who wants to analyze them could do so, but that this has not happened so far because people have preferred to focus on criticizing him personally.
Anyone who starts investigating this phenomenon is questioned and attacked. This happens because the most important thing is to discredit the messenger, since that's how, on many occasions, they put an end to the most sensational cases, not by attacking the evidence, but by attacking the person who presents it. DNA is evidence. We made the results available to everyone, but to this day, no one has analyzed them. That's because analyzing the DNA and acknowledging the results means proving the authenticity of the discovery.
At first, it was hypothesized that the mummies were simple assemblages. In other words, the remains of different animals would have been used to form these particular bodies. But the analyses carried out by José de Jesus Salche Benitez, a forensic doctor from the Mexican Navy who used techniques such as computed tomography and X-ray radiography, have ruled out this possibility. The bodies are intact and do not appear to have undergone any manipulation. The analysis of the mummies revealed two other very peculiar aspects. The skin on the fingers would have fingerprints, but these are not like the ones we know. Instead, they would have a horizontal extension. Metal implants were also found in the bodies of the mummies. Once analyzed, these gave another curious result. The implants were supposedly made with very rare alloys, particularly osmium. Osmium belongs to the platinum group of metals, and it is one of the hardest and most durable metals we know. This particular metal was only discovered in 1800 by the English chemist Smithson Tennant, so it's actually a fairly recent discovery. And if the age of the mummies, as stated by the carbon analysis carried out by the Mexican University, is confirmed, the presence of these metals inside these bodies would indeed be difficult to explain.
These specimens are not part of the evolution of our world. They were not recovered from the wreckage of an extraterrestrial spacecraft. They were found fossilized in a mine inside diatomaceous earth, a type of algae that does not allow the growth of bacteria or fungi.
The mummies were reportedly found in 2017 at an archaeological site near Cusco in Peru, and were only later brought to Mexico. This admission led to Maussan facing a complaint from Peru's Minister of Culture, who accuses him of having removed an archaeological artifact from the country without any authorization. But Maussan has stated that he will soon clarify how he came into possession of the remains. At the moment, the judgment on this discovery is pending. We do not know for sure whether the mummies discovered by Mosan are real or fake. For this reason, we are waiting for further developments. Clearly, if the authenticity of the discovery were confirmed, it would be something incredible and could represent that missing piece linking the history of mankind to that of beings coming from a place outside our Earth. While waiting for further answers from Mexico, we cannot help but acknowledge the fact that the topic of ufology has seen a radical change of paradigm in recent years. We have gone from a total denial of the issue to an unexpected institutional openness. At this point, there is nothing left but to answer the most important question. What are these mysterious, unidentified objects? If they are real, what is the true nature of these unknown phenomena? Are they representatives of civilizations that have thrived on planets other than ours? Or are they evidence of something that we struggle even to imagine? Now, we are truly curious to know your opinion and to explore this fascinating topic together with you. But if you enjoyed the video and appreciate our work, don't forget to subscribe to the channel because your support is essential for us. Until the next story.